So one more game that I wanted to talk about, and I promise we will be getting out of the state of Texas for this one. I did want to talk about one of the best conferences real quick, at least at the group of five level. We are now jumping in to that Sun Belt. And the Sun Belt has certainly been an interesting place. There's been a lot of good teams in the Sun Belt, most notably James Madison, who's just been ranked in the top 25 by the AP. It's much deserved for James Madison. We're not going to talk about James Madison specifically for this game. That surprises me the most, though. We're actually going to dive into another team that James Madison did play this year and beat, and that's this Southern Alabama team. And this Southern Alabama team, listen, they might have been forgotten about. They were considered like one of the best group of five teams. Then we saw them lose to Tulane on the road pretty convincingly. Also, dropping a game against Central Michigan. It wasn't a overall, it wasn't a positive non-conference slate. Aside from winning on the road against Oklahoma State, and with each passing day, that win is looking better and better, given how much better Oklahoma State has looked, by the way. Shout out to the Jaguars getting a sneaky good win, dominant win, 33-7. But here we are, deep in the Sun Belt Conference play, though. Last week, they were on the road against Louisiana Monroe, and they won 55-7. We actually talked about this Southern Alabama team last week because it was considered one of the bigger surprises of the college football weekend, what Southern Alabama was able to do against Louisiana Monroe. And South Alabama's just keeping the focus. They are just chugging along. They're not really caring what anybody's thinking. They blow out Southern Miss. They blow out Southern Miss by 50 plus. USA was only an 18.5 point favorite when this line closed. Over under was at 51. And South Alabama topped that all by themselves. So what happened in this game? First of all, with Damian Webb, he was a huge spark for South Alabama to get things started. 20 carries, 102 yards, which doesn't sound that impressive, but he found the end zone 4 times. He accounted for more than half of the rushing touchdowns that South Alabama did end up having in this game. They ended up having 7 touchdowns total, had a couple of field goals thrown in there as well. But Damian Webb accounted for more than half of them. He knows how to find the end zone. Well, Damian is certified him, that's for sure. South Alabama, in addition, second week in a row, they set program records for margin of victory. So that 55-7 win that we were just talking about, that was a program record for their biggest win from a point margin standpoint as a Division I program. And South Alabama has not been at the Division I level for quite for a while. Matter of fact, they've been at the FBS level for a decade, if that. So South Alabama has not been around for a very long time. They're so new of a program. The only time that you could find South Alabama in the game is NCAA 14. You will not find them in any other NCAA game unless you create the team. That's how new this program is. And they also set that program record for largest margin of victory, 55-7. And then they end up expanding on that record yet again, pushing it to over 50 points of victory. 52 points is a program record for their largest win ever as a D1 program. So arguably the best game South Alabama has played in school history. And how they were able to accomplish that, they had 34 first downs on that fateful Tuesday night. So this game happened last Tuesday, and that's how impressive the win was if we're still talking about it a week later. Incredible. Absolutely incredible stuff by South Alabama. Now, Southern Miss, on the other hand, I mean, they set a program record too, but they have they said it in a negative way. Southern Miss ended up with its worst conference loss in program history, and they are now riding a 6-game losing streak right now. So they opened the season with a win against Alcorn State, against FCS school, HBCU, by the way. But after that, they have been on a 6-game losing streak. Big reason for their losing streak is that they really have not put it together as a team. Like, there have been times where the offense has played well enough to win, but then their defense lets them down. And there's been times this year where the defense has played well enough to win, but offensively they couldn't get enough going in order to ultimately win the football game. So Southern Miss, they've had winnable efforts, but they haven't put it together to beat a team that's actually FBS level. But their offense has really let them down. It's been really rough to watch Southern Miss play offense in the past couple of weeks. They actually have not scored an offensive touchdown since their 50-36 loss to Texas State. That was on September 30th. So it's been a month. It's been a month since Southern Miss has scored an offensive touchdown. So that's a big reason as well why they weren't able to win this game. Aside from the fact that they gave up anything and everything as well, South Alabama ended up with over 640 yards of total offense. Southern Miss just had 150. And that 150 number sounds bad until you found out that the vast majority of those yards actually came on the final drive of the game. The game was out of hand, and I'm sure that South Alabama had their backups in at this point. 65 of those yards, 65 to 150, came on that final drive. And it doesn't even end in points. It ends up in a fumble on South Alabama's 29-yard line. Other stats of note, South Alabama did end up winning the turnover battle. South Alabama did turn the ball over once. USM turned the ball over a couple of times. Time of possession was actually pretty similar, which is crazy given how lopsided the score is. So South Alabama won the time possession battle, but it wasn't a significant win. South Alabama with a little over 31 minutes of time possession. Southern Miss, less than 29. Ended up with 28 minutes and 45 seconds as your final time of possession count. So what's next for both teams? We'll go to the winners first because everyone loves a winner, right? South Alabama continues their conference play. They are tied for first place in that Western Division. That's why this game is a little bit important, because Southern Miss is in this division as well. So when you have divisions, beating your divisional opponents is a must if you want to go to the conference championship game at the end of the season. This Western Division is probably just a touch weaker than the East side. South Alabama is on the West side. They play Louisiana. They take on the Raging Cajuns on Saturday. It'll be considered a little bit of a tune-up before they play at least one of the games, because South Alabama's tied with Troy. They're tied for Texas with Texas State at the top of the Western Division. One of the games that South Alabama will have that will decide who represents the West Division in that Sun Belt Conference Championship game is when they go on the road against Troy in a couple of weeks. We like South Alabama against Louisiana, but they got to be really careful about not looking past them, because if South Alabama drops this game against Louisiana, they're going to put themselves in an 8-ball position to get to the that Sun Belt Conference Championship game. And we believed that this team is capable of winning the Sun Belt. We actually picked them to win the Sun Belt at the beginning of the year. If James Madison didn't have to deal with those archaic rules with the NCAA, we would have picked James Madison. But it is what it is at this point. We'll see what the mental focus is for Louisiana. that's going to tell us a lot about how serious of a contender South Alabama is for the Sun Belt. And then as for Southern Miss, I mean, for Southern Miss, I think at this point you're just really trying your best to kind of see what you have in your younger guys. This seems like it's a pretty lost season at this point, and that's even with the fact that they have Frank Gore Jr. Coming back, but that offensive line for Southern Miss has really not blocked very well for Frank Gore Jr. More than halfway through the year, and the son of Frank Gore has less than 500 yards rushing. This was a very dynamic runner last season, a season in which he ran for almost 1,400 yards. So the team around him is letting Frank Gore down tremendously. But I think at this point of the year, I think it's going to be important for Southern Miss to really prioritize just seeing what they have in the younger players on this team, kind of treat this as an evaluation period. This is not a team that's going bowling. I don't really see them going bowling. They actually only have a couple of home games left. One's against fellow bottom dweller UL Monroe. Maybe they'll be able to win that game. Maybe not. It might be pretty close. We'll have to see what the model says when those two teams do meet up in a couple of weeks. But they got to go play Troy. They got to go take on an SEC school in Mississippi State as well. Southern Miss, how much fight do they have? And are they going to use this time here in the second half of the season to evaluate who is going to be a building block for next year? And then go from there in terms of who they need to recruit, who they need to go into the transfer portal, because Southern Miss is one of the worst teams in the country right now. And they got some work to do if they ever want to be competitive in the Sun Belt. A really good Sun Belt conference, might I add. I think this is it's either them or the Mountain West is the best group of 5 conference in all of college football. A lot of tough questions that really do need to be asked at Southern Miss right now.